What's up, guys? Appreciate you joining for our final installment of the tribute to Coach Dye. We're very lucky to be joined by current University of North Carolina, who plays Auburn this year, offensive line coach Stacey Searels. He was at Auburn from 83 to 87. Really good player. Has some really good stories about Coach Dye. I will tell you, it gets a little emotional in the middle because it is an emotional topic. So, it's something where this hits everybody pretty deep, and you're going to be able to see that. And I know it's hit a lot of y'all deep. And again, it is what it is, and it needs to be heard. And I appreciate you guys joining us. So again, hope you enjoy the final installment of the Pat Dye tribute that we're doing. And tomorrow we are going to kind of get back to our normal deal. We're going to have a recruiting roundup, a basketball edition with top Rivals analyst Corey Evans. So again, thank you for joining us, and I hope you enjoy this episode. All right, everybody. Thank you guys for joining us for our third and final part of obviously the tribute to Coach Dye. Had Benji Rowland on the first. I had Ben Tamburillo on the second, and obviously it's a very somber occasion. But we're very lucky to be joined by an Auburn great, one of the best coaches around, one of the best offensive line coaches around, Stacey Searels. Coach, I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm glad to be with you, Jake.
Yes, sir. And just go ahead and getting right to it. This has been the first question I've asked everybody during this deal. And can you just talk about for a second what Coach Dye meant to you, on and off the field, and just how much of an influence he was in your life?
Wow. Yesterday was a really, really hard day. When I found out Coach passed, there's a lot of tears shed.
Yeah.
But the thing that, and I thought I was over this, so you're choking me up right now.
Sorry, Coach. I know.
But the thing that I reflected on the most is, where would I be without Pat Dye?
Mm-hmm.
And Coach Dye took a chance on a boy from Tryon, Georgia, just like he did with Benji Rowland and Eastman or Kurt Crane or
mm-hmm.
Nate Hill, or all the guys he did. He took a chance on us guys. And because of that, I met my wife in Auburn. I've got lifelong friends, and I've got a list of friends, whether it be your dad, Kurt Crane, Jeff Berger, Benji Rowland, John Hudson, Charles Kelly, Tracy Rocker, Nate Hill, all these guys, they're my brothers.
Yeah.
And there's a ton more, Rob Schuler, whoever it is. And I've talked to a bunch of these guys. Rodney Garner was the first one to call me about this.
Mm-hmm.
And, we're all brothers.
Yeah.
And we all got each other's back. But because of what he did for us, he gave us a better life. I could be working in the mill in Tryon, Georgia, real easy. And there's a lot of Searels that's made a good living in Tryon, Georgia doing that.
Mm-hmm.
But he gave me so many more opportunities. He opened up a whole world, not just to me, but to my whole family.
Yeah.
And I can't say that enough, how much he means to me.
Yeah. And again, Coach, I appreciate it. I mean, it's, the common theme, and like I said, it's my third time doing this. So the common theme is just how genuine the relationship between Coach Dye and you guys actually was. It was way bigger than football. And obviously I know, because every example of me growing up, whenever there was something that I didn't want to do or whatever, it always start with, well, Coach Dye used to say. And so
yes.
in our house, the standard was what Coach Dye said. Like, I felt like I knew Coach Dye as much as anybody. And, I saw him growing up and all that. But can you just talk about the relationship on how he knew your name? He knew what made you laugh. He knew what made you cry. He knew what to say to get you where you needed to go.
There's a lot of stories about that, but mine started back in recruiting. And, I'm from Georgia, and I could have went to Georgia. And Georgia was they were at their peak right then. And Pat Dye came to my house. Pat Dye and Neil Calloway came to my house, and they're recruiting me. And my mom is, she loves to cook for everybody. And she's cooking cream corn, Silver Queen, sweet corn, fried okra, and cooking a good meal for us. And Pat Dye is over there stirring the corn for her while she's cooking the okra. and that right there impressed my dad, my mom. They knew They knew what type of man he was. Coach Dye is the type of man who could treat, whether it be you're a dirt farmer or a multimillionaire, he treats everybody with the same respect, and they can relate to everybody.
Yeah.
And with the way the world is crazy right now, with all the racial injustice or all the social uprising, all that crap, Coach Dye didn't see color. He saw people. He saw people. And we were all brothers, and we had our back. It didn't matter if you was black or white or what you believed or whatever you did. You know, he treated us all the same. He worked the hell out of all of us. All right? But we all had each other back. And because we went through such tough times together, it's a bond that can never be broken. In recruiting nowadays, I talk to these kids, and a lot of coaches say the same thing. It's a 40-year decision, not a 4-year decision.
Yeah.
The relationships you build in college last forever. Yeah. And I've got so many friends, whether it's, Yan Cowart, he's got a place here on the lake, and we see him all the time. Yan or Ben or whoever it is. Those guys are my brothers. Jay Jacobs, guys like that. They're my brothers, and they're my brothers because of Pat Dye bringing a boy from Tryon, Georgia to Auburn and turning him into an Auburn man.
Yes, sir. And again, I just, it's something that me and Mr. Ben Tamburillo, talked about yesterday. It was, and I'd love for you to talk about this on the field. The grind. And again, my father used to talk about it. Like, he used to break y'all down and build y'all back up, but y'all were so close that number one, y'all were never afraid of anybody. You were never scared of anybody because, you knew the guy to the left and the right had you. And can you just talk about, and again, as a coach, I know that's what you're trying to build, where you're at, and you're at North Carolina right now. Can you talk about how Coach Dye influenced you as a coach?
Well, the thing, if you could survive a Tuesday practice at Auburn, you could survive anything.
Yeah.
All right. So anything anybody throws at me, I can handle. If you can survive, I heard Big Joel talking about 4 days at Auburn. In 1986, we lost Alabama 2 years in a row, in 84 and 85, and you don't do that. Okay, you just can't do that.
No.
And so we went to 4 days. It was 6 a.m., 12 noon, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and 8 o'clock at night. We had 4 practices a day.
My dad used to say he slept in his tape.
Oh, it was hard, and but Coach Dye taught toughness. He taught integrity. He taught character, and those are all the things I try to instill in young men today. I think he does a lot better job than I ever do at it, but that is my standard, the way to coach these guys.
Yeah, and it's something too that again, it's so, and I'd love for you to talk about it. And again, I know there's some stuff you can talk about, some stuff you can't, but can you just talk about, obviously it always comes back to the Iron Bowl. It always comes back to him getting the games moved. Can you just talk about the mindset that Coach Dye brought with him to Auburn that elevated Auburn to a place to where, y'all were looking for a fight? I think that's when I think about y'all's teams, my dad's team in the 80s, it was like these guys are looking for a fight, and that makes you dangerous.
Well, I can remember every Iron Bowl, okay? And I got here in 83, and I was redshirted. I didn't even get to travel to the first Iron Bowl in 1983. I watched it on TV, and, it's bow over the top, and it's all that. 1984, we lose. Bow goes the wrong way.
Yeah.
85, Van Tiffin's field goal. 86, Lawyer's reverse. 87. Here's what I remember about 87. I think we won 10-0. Kurt Crane probably had 26 tackles that day. Yeah. But here's one memory I have of that game, and you know exactly what I'm about to say.
Yep.
Kurt Crane knocks out Clay Whitehurst.
Yep.
He fumbles. Nate Hill jumps on the ball. And the next picture you see, I think, is Pat down the sideline.
Mm-hmm. Take your time, Coach. Take your time, Coach.
And all 3 of those guys are gone.
Yeah.
But anyway, Kurt, Nate, Coach Dye, shoot, those are memories. But I can remember, 1985, we score. We have a 12-play drive and a 14-play drive, I think, to go down and go ahead of Alabama. But the competition, playing against Alabama, you're playing against John Hand, Biscuit, Derek Thomas, all first rounders, all great players. And I had such respect for those guys.
Yeah.
And I know the rivalry can be very hostile, the fans love to talk trash. I think as players, we respect those guys.
Yeah.
But
you never see fights.
When we stepped on that field, hey, let's go. You're going to war. And those were some great memories.
Yeah.
I can remember all those games.
Yeah.
And there's in 80, the 85 when he kicked the field goal, it ripped our hearts out.
Yeah.
But to be able to win the last two games we did in 86 and 87 gives you a sense of pride and playing for Pat Dye, playing for Auburn, and it changes your life.
Yeah,
you can walk with a confidence.
Yeah, and again, I think that permeates from all you guys, and it did from him. And actually, kind of a lighter anecdote about Clay Whitehurst. Dad always used to say when he hit him, it dislocated my dad's shoulder. And everybody was excited, piling on him, and he didn't even care about the play. His shoulder hurt so bad he was having to punch people with his other hand to try and get him off of him because it hurt so bad. And even funnier, the first, I can remember living in Dadeville, Alabama, in a double wide trailer that my dad bought from Clay Whitehurst. He used to say he hit him harder the second time. So, but no, I appreciate you sharing that. And Coach, kind of in that same vein, with Coach Dye and with you guys and kind of that swagger that era had, and I asked, and I know I keep bringing up Ben Tamarillo, but I asked him the same question. During the season, during, Alabama week or Georgia week, can you just talk about how different just the feeling in the air was, and just, the days leading up to the game and seeing the stadium and knowing, what's about to go down and how important it is?
Well, for guys who play at Auburn, the Georgia and Alabama game are so important. And for me, I coming from Georgia, I thought, okay, you got to beat Georgia. You got to beat Georgia. That's the most important thing. But when you lose to Alabama, you figure out what's most important.
Real quick.
You figure it out, and that's when you understand the importance of it. And that's when you understand, and it's not just the Georgia-Alabama week, it's the off season. Everything you do in that weight room is, am I outworking that kid at Alabama? All right. Am I outworking that guy at Georgia? Those things are very, very important. And he instilled that in us. But just the way we went about our business, the toughness he instilled in us, the work ethic. The one of the hardest things we did at Auburn in practice on Tuesdays, one day, it might have been Tuesday and Wednesday, but one day, maybe the tackles and centers would go against the linebackers while the guards went against the D tackles. Yeah. And this was a one-on-one drill. Okay. And there was nothing in the world worse than lining up 5 yards apart from Kurt Crane and Eddie Phillips and Ben McCurdy and all these freaking 6'2", 6'3", 250-pound linebackers.
Yeah.
And you coming off the ball and it's like two battering rams.
Yeah.
All right. I'd rather, and Tracy Rocker and Nate Hill and all those guys are great players, but I'd rather be 1 yard apart and have a collision than that 5 yard. But to be able to do those things and survive those practices, the games are easy.
Yeah, that's exactly what Benji Rowland said. He said, you say when you make practice more important than the game's easy.
Yeah, and practice is important. The way we practice, the effort you were required to play with. The number one thing I always talk to when I'm recruiting, the number one thing I'm looking for is effort.
Yeah,
and
100%.
If you didn't play with tremendous effort at Auburn University back in the day, you're not going to play, and it's still the same today.
Yeah.
But the other thing, you sort of talked about it. The second thing is an attitude. The attitude is when you walk on that field, you're the baddest son of a gun that's ever walked that field.
Yeah.
But why are you that way? It's the way you prepared in the offseason, the way the coaches have trained you. And that's an attitude that I'm going to be the best in the country. I'm going to be the best.
Yeah.
The third thing I talk about is toughness. Both physical and mental toughness. If you can go through 4 days at Auburn in 1986, playing against Georgia and Alabama, you're going to be fine.
Yeah.
You're playing against Tennessee, you're going to be fine. All right. And the coaches taught us what to do, knowing what to do, being a smart football player, because they made us understand that football is important. And the biggest thing I've understood about football, not just the winning and losses, and winning's a heck of a lot more fun than losing.
Yeah, it is.
But the relationships you built over the years.
Yeah.
And in times like this, reflecting on Coach Pat Dye, who at 80 years old and on his deathbed, I think he could still get up and kick my ass.
Hey, well, without a doubt, he was the only guy I ever saw my dad was afraid of, like legitimately afraid of. He's
the toughest man I know, and I've looked at that man that way. That was the respect I had for that man.
Yeah. Now, Coach, can you talk about, just because again you've been involved in the game for a while and you've seen kind of the way the game is transformed now. Can you just kind of talk about, and I know that there's a lot more restrictions now than there was, and you talked about the 4 days and all that stuff. Can you just talk about kind of the difference in the game nowadays as opposed to, the 1980s?
Well, here's the thing I always try, regardless of the scheme and all, it's still about blocking and tackling.
Yes, sir.
And being physical, and who's the most tenacious at how they play the game.
Yeah.
That will never change, and I'm not going to change that in my mind. But there's different ways of doing it. The importance of the game. Some kids weren't brought up the same way we were.
Yeah.
And when you can find those guys that football is really, really important to them, that they love football, it's hard to find, but those are gems. Those are guys you want.
Yeah.
And
those are guys you can count on.
I don't ever want to diminish the importance of toughness in the game. Now, is there smarter ways to do things? Sure.
Yeah.
My neck hurts because I went one-on-one with Kurt Crane like every Tuesday, and that sucked.
God, man, I only went one-on-one with him like 3 times, and yeah, believe me, I lost bad.
Yeah. But don't take the toughness out of the game. Don't take the being physical. You got to block, you got to tackle. But there's a lot of really skilled players, and on our team at North Carolina, we've got some skilled kids, and it's fun to watch them make plays. It's fun to watch them make plays.
And Coach, can you kind of talk about, because again, I don't know if I'm sure you've played Auburn before, and again, not any obviously X's and O's or anything like that, but just as a former Auburn player, can you give our audience kind of what it's like being a coach, at a Power 5 school and playing Auburn? I know it's at a neutral site, but just it's got to be a little extra giddy for you, right?
Well, Auburn University is important to me in my life. It's changed my life. The respect I have for their players and coaches is unbelievable.
Yeah,
I've coached against them when I was at LSU every year. I coached against them when I was at Georgia every year. My whole family. I went to Auburn to play football.
Yeah,
and became an Auburn man. My wife's family, on the other hand, their whole family's Auburn people, and they don't even talk to us. The weeks we would play, My wife just didn't talk to him. And I'm like, do y'all not realize if we don't win, your grandkids may not be able to go to school?
Priorities, man, priorities.
Winning that game is important to me.
Yeah.
But I've got respect for Auburn University. I got respect for their coaches.
Yeah.
Rodney Gardner is one of my brothers.
Yeah. And again, I know that again, Coach, it's something where being at Auburn and being part of that tradition, and it's something too that I wanted to ask you that I think is a real thing. And I noticed this, and obviously I was in the house with one for a long time, but you guys that played during the 80s in that era, that there's every time I think about one of you guys, I just think tough. You know what I'm saying? Whether it's you or Benji Rowland or Nate Hill or Tracy Rock or, even the punter. You know what I'm saying? The punter was a guy. Shoot, the Florida game helped y'all win the Florida game. It's just y'all were just tough, and y'all know how to get the job done. It's gotta, and I know you're a really humble guy, but it's gotta mean something being an Auburn player from the 80s.
Well, and it's all because of Pat Dye.
Yeah.
It started at the top. My coach was Neil Callaway.
Mm-hmm.
Wayne Hall on defense, the defense coordinator. He's tough. Reggie Herring, who coached your dad, was tough.
Yeah.
Whether it be Joe Whitt or James Daniel or Steve Denton, whoever, Larry Blakeney, all them guys were tough coaches.
Yeah.
And were demanding, and they instilled it in you. And the way you live your life is the way you're going to perform when the lights are on.
Yeah.
And you can't cheat it. You can't cheat the preparation.
Yeah.
If you cheat it, you won't be successful. And there was no shortcuts under Coach Dye.
Yeah.
He knew how we should prepare. He knew what we should be doing, and he made sure he held us all accountable.
Yeah.
And that's something that I love the man for instilling that in me.
Definitely. Well, Coach Searels, man, I really appreciate you coming on. Again, best of luck to you. Again, please tell everybody in your family, from the Crane family, we said hello. And, I know you're going to get super, super busy here soon, and, be safe out there. And again, man, I really appreciate it.
All right. Thanks. Appreciate you, buddy.
Yes, sir. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye. You just listened to the final edition of the Pat Dye Tribute from the Jboy Show. Appreciate you guys joining us. Again, tomorrow, like I said in the intro, we'll kind of get back to our normal schedule. We have one of our recruiting roundups, a basketball edition with Rivals basketball analyst, one of the best guys in the business, Corey Evans. So again, I appreciate you guys listening. I hope you got some good stories out of this. And again, the whole focus was being able to, talk about the things about Coach Dye that he did, and the great man that he was, and the amount of people that he influenced in such a positive way, and how, being in that position, how many lives that you really can change and that you really can affect, especially if you're trying to do, the right things the right way. So again, thank you guys, and we'll see y'all next time. It's Jboy, and I'm out.